Still, on Domino's application, they are allowing me to sign in using Google account. So that is what your federated users is all about. That is what your federated users is all about. Now understand, when I say federated users, basically when you say, okay, basically when you say sign in using my Google or sign in using Facebook, right? It is like you're having some kind of conversation with application. Let's understand. For example, if for a moment, let's assume that you guys are application and I am user. Okay. So ideally, when I download an application on my mobile phone and I try to sign up for the first time, it will ask me to set up username and password. Now I am a lazy person. Okay. I am a lazy person. I'm like, I cannot remember 20, 30 different username and password for each application. I cannot remember separate username and password. That is very difficult for me. Right? But you say, no, boss, if you cannot set up username and password, I cannot allow you to move further, because authentication is must. Authentication is must. So you are right on your part, telling that, hey, if you don't authenticate yourself, I cannot allow you to use this application. And I am right on my part that, today if I have one application, I can remember username and password. Now, yes, am I making sense? If I have one or two applications, I can remember the username and password. Now I have 20, 30 different applications. And if each application, if I'm supposed to, for each application, if I'm supposed to remember username and password, it is not a feasible option. So then what I say is, okay, you want to authenticate me? It's okay. I understand. It is your requirement. So I will sign in using my Google account. Google has already authenticated me. Google already trusts me. If you want to authenticate me, okay, Google has already authenticated me. Google has already trusted me. If you want to authenticate me, if you want to establish trust on me, use my Google account. And that is when I say sign in using Google, and I'll provide my Google email address and I'll be allowed to log in. Am I making sense? Everyone? Okay. Okay. Someone says audio was not audible. Guys, am I audible? Okay. Now it is okay, but sometimes the voice was breaking. I've already raised this with Edureka team. It's not network related issue, just in case, because a couple of people says, can you please check your network? So if you want to verify that, here you go. Okay, I have a very good network, around 180, 190 megs, 180 Mbps. So my network should not be a problem. I'm pretty confident about it. I mean, just in case, if you want to check, my network should not be a problem. So from 180 megs, it would obviously not drop down to 1.8 meg. That I'm pretty confident, right? From 180, it might come down to, let's say 100 megs, but still that should not create a problem. Okay. So now moving a bit forward, that was about your AWS Cognito. So AWS Cognito is a service from AWS which allows you to set up a single sign-on for its user. All right. So here you can create user pools and you can create identity pools. Identity pools, like you can leverage your social websites like your Google, Facebook, Apple. All of this can be used, and you can allow access to users using those websites also. Apart from that, you can also leverage SAML and other applications. You can use common identity management standards like your OpenID, OAuth. All of these are also possible. And along with that, you can enable MFA on this Cognito. So this is how it works. As a user of application, you try to log into application. It will check in the user pool details, and then it will check the identity pool details, and then it will allow you the access. So AWS will take care of the authentication, right? And it will allow you single sign-on. So very good example is your GE Healthcare. So GE Healthcare have been using AWS Cognito for the purpose of authentication to their infrastructure, right? Guys, any questions on this? Any questions, doubts, queries? Do we have to pay for it separately? Absolutely, yes. It will come with a cost. It will come with a cost. Cognito is just to verify other trusted users. It's not about just other trusted users. It is to integrate or allow you integrate your social accounts also. Okay. What about MFA? As long as you're using virtual MFA, Aram, you're not charged for it. Okay. As long as you're using virtual MFA, there is no charges. But if you say, no, I need physical token, physical hardware based MFA, then that will come with a cost. Okay. With Cognito, are you saying users will be able to log in only to all AWS related service or also other application? It is to your AWS infrastructure as well as some applications. If I hosted some application on those application for the purpose of authentication, if I want to leverage, I can leverage this Cognito service. It's up to us to use IAM or Cognito, right? Absolutely, yes. As an organization, it is your choice. Does it act like a Gmail account? No, it's not exactly like your Gmail account, but it will enable you single sign-on. It will give you pretty much similar experience like what you observe when you try to log in using Gmail. Are we clear? Sweta, is your question answered? Madesh, is your question answered? Bhargavi, is your question answered? But simply by logging to AWS, aren't we able to log on and have all the services available any which ways? See, that is option available, Sweta. That is always an option available. Now let's say, I'll tell you when do we use this Cognito kind of services. Okay. Let's say I am an organization XYZ. Okay. I have 500 employees of my organization. So for all my employees I have created, IAM user account. Now, let's say there is a third party audit that needs to be done. Let's say there is third party audit that needs to be done. So I call some external vendor who are not, those people are not part of my organization. They are not my employees. So obviously for them, I'll not be creating IAM user accounts. Agree with me? Yes or no? Because they are not my employees. So for them, I'm not going to create IAM user account. So if they want to access my AWS infrastructure for the purpose of audit with limited privileges, they would like to access my AWS infrastructure, then how do they do that? So what I say, okay, you have your Facebook account, you have your Gmail account, not a problem. I'll set up Cognito. You use your Gmail or your Facebook to log into my AWS infrastructure. Are we clear now? Do we have demo for Cognito? Okay, let me tell you this. The demonstration for your Cognito is ideally self-paced. Okay. So what I am doing right now is we'll move forward. Towards the end of this course, somewhere if we have some additional time, I'll demonstrate Cognito in the class as a live. If not, it's a self-paced, because from the exam point of view, you need to understand fundamentals of this. They're not gonna go deep down into your Cognito. Is that fine with everyone? So we can use both Cognito and IAM for a single application. Absolutely, yes. The choice is yours. But is it not risky to give access to a Gmail or Facebook user? See, you're doing it in all your sensors, right? Why will it be gonna be a risky? Because you're gonna restrict that. Okay, if this user is coming using Gmail account, what all guys, give me 1 minute. Now, I don't want you to be struggling always with the audio. Give me 1 minute. I'll just raise this immediately over a call. I need to escalate this. I've already, informed them yesterday a couple of times. They said that our technical team will look into, but this is kind of annoying. Give me 1 minute. I'm just giving them a call. Guys, allow me 1 minute. I'm going on a mute. I'm giving them a call to get it escalated at the, immediate effect. Because even yesterday I raised them this issue, and this cannot be repeating, yeah. Because it becomes really annoying to, lose the audio and then continue again. Even as a user, I would feel very bad about it. So give me 1 minute. All right. Okay. So, guys, just wanted to keep you informed. I've already escalated to their higher management right now over the call itself. I informed them because yesterday I personally called them. I informed that users are facing this problem and it's really not happening. So they said that they will look into this. Now I already escalated to the next level. So let us see what happens. I don't have an immediate fix to this, but let me tell you, it's not an issue at my end, and neither it's an issue at your end. I assume it's some tool related issue, some GoToWebinar tool related issue. So I do hope now that being escalated to the highest level, right, from that technical side, I do hope that it should be fixed at the earliest possible. I'm really sorry for the bad experience with the tool which you are having, right? But this is completely out of my control and something out of your control as well, I understand. So I'm just hoping that it should be fixed at the earliest possible. Okay. So are we all clear with Cognito? Can I move forward? Everyone? Yes? Great. Thank you so much for the confirmation. So now moving a bit forward, talking about the next part of discussion, which is your detection control via AWS Guard Duty. Now, this particular, service, AWS Guard Duty, is basically a service on AWS to detect any kind of anomalies. This is a service on AWS to detect any kind of anomalies. When I say anomalies, I would like to understand from you guys, what do you understand by it? What do you understand when I say term anomaly? Forget all the technical part. In very layman language, tell me what is yours understanding about anomaly. Malicious activity, okay? Deviation from normal, suspicious activity, okay? What else? Suspicious activity. Abnormal activity, okay? Any other definition of anomaly? Fraud detection, okay? Error, threat, so many different definitions, right? So agree, anomaly is in a very simple terms, trying to perform something which you are not authorized to, trying to perform something which you shouldn't be, right? Or trying to use your resources to access something which you are not allowed to, or to do something which you are not allowed to. That is your anomaly. Now I'll make it very easy to understand what actual anomaly means. Let's assume that we all know on Google there are certain websites, when you try to access those websites are blocked. Yes or no? When you try to access certain websites using your Google browser, those websites are blocked. Everyone agree to this? Yes. Now, how many of you guys are aware of something called as dark web? Have you heard of something called as dark web? Tor browser, onion browsers, Tor browsers, dark web. Okay. In case if you're not aware, let me tell you, it is something which you should know about it. Okay. So understand what your dark web is all about. Now, do you think hackers or someone dealing with drugs, someone dealing with weapons, someone dealing into any kind of illegal activity, do you think they use this Google browser? Someone who deals with all of this, all illegal activity, let it be drugs, your weapons, or all bad activities, I would say, hacking and all of that, right? Do you think they use Google browser? No, they don't use Google browser. They use something called as Tor browser. They use something called as dark web, and they usually use something called as Tor browser. Okay. Now, what is Tor browser? It's a very good thing to you should know about it. I'm not asking you to use it, but you should know what it is. You should know what it is. It is basically a browser with which you can access any illegal website without having a fear of being tracked down. Because if you use Google, someone can track you down. If you use Mozilla, someone can track down. If you use this normal browsers, people can track down and police can easily catch you. But if you're using your Tor browsers and stuff, right, your entire identity is kept anonymous. You can access any illegal websites. You can do anything illegal without you getting noticed. without you getting noticed. When I say without you getting noticed, it means that your identity is not easily known. So that is what your dark Tor browser is all about. And dark web is all about where you deal with all the illegal activities, right from your drug to you think of any bad activity, you can do that on your dark webs. Okay. So, let's assume that ideally you're not allowed to access certain websites, okay, using your regular browser. Now, you have a server which is hosted in your AWS infrastructure. There is a guy in your team who downloads this Tor browser on your server, and from the Tor browser, he is trying to access some illegal website. So, as an organization, would you like to have visibility of this or not? As an organization, would you like to have visibility to this kind of activity or not? Now, if it is one or two servers, you can easily monitor. Imagine you have thousands of servers. Will you be able to monitor them? Will you be able to do manual monitoring? And not only servers, what about your databases and other resources? So monitoring this manually is not possible. Agree with me? Screen is not struck. I'm on this screen only. Now screen is moving. Anjana, screen is not struck because I was just talking. I did not wanted to use screen. Okay. So if you want to detect this kind of anonymous activity or anomalies in your infrastructure, then AWS Guard Duty is a service from AWS which will allow you to look into all this kind of activities, and it will give you all this kind of findings. If there is any kind of anomalies, any kind of suspicious activity detected in your AWS infrastructure, it is going to highlight that as a finding for you. You can look into that finding and you can take action accordingly of your choice. It will not take action. It will just give you the finding. Now, how does this AWS Guard Duty is able to understand all of this? It is not going to install any agents. It is not going to install any application on each server. Nothing of that sort. What it says, for me to detect anything, you provide me your network activity, your network logs, provide me your user logs and your network logs, so that I'll be able to understand who is doing what. It requires access to your network logs and your user activity logs. Now, AWS Guard Duty is completely managed service from AWS. What do I mean when I say managed service from AWS? When I say managed service from AWS, that means the underlying infrastructure or the infrastructure needed to run this service is completely taken care by AWS. You don't have to manage and maintain, right? All you have to do is just enable this service. It uses machine learning to do all these findings. Now, using your root account is also an anomaly. How do I enable Guard Duty? I just say Guard Duty or I search for Guard Duty here. Okay. I search for Guard Duty. Right. So ideally this service comes with a cost. Okay. For 1 month it is for free. After 1 month they start charging you for this service. So like for the first time, if you see on your account, it would say try Guard Duty for free. You can evaluate Guard Duty and its threat detection capabilities with a 30 days free trial. So all you have to do is say get started, and once you enable Guard Duty, this free tier is applicable for this free demo is applicable for 30 days. So after 30 days it will start charging you. So I've already enabled it in my Mumbai location. and I have temporarily suspended it. Okay. So I have already enabled it in my Mumbai location. I have temporarily suspended it. So I'm going to re-enable this guard duty. I'm going to re-enable this guard duty, and now I have re-enabled it. So once I enable, it will show me, it will give me findings, or it will tell me that these are what I find as an anomalies. Like yesterday, I had enabled it. So if you notice, it tells me all the details. So describe trials was invoked using root credential from IP address so and so. Okay. That means what? Someone tried doing some activity on my AWS using root account, right? Someone created a bucket. Basically, this is nothing but I created a bucket, right, in my AWS infrastructure. All right. Can you show create new one? So new one is nothing, the same thing, Ashish. You go to your region. Okay. All you have to say get started and say enable guard duty. That's it. You don't have to do anything apart from this. You don't have to do anything apart from this. Rest, once you enable it, it will start reading all your logs and it will start giving you findings. Now that I have enabled it, now I have enabled this. So after some time when we come back, please pay attention to this count. So 9 hours ago, it was saying count is 62 and 9 hours ago count was 10. Okay. Someone using root credential to make some changes in my AWS account. Okay. So we'll come back, we'll revisit this dashboard sometime later so that we'll see the count getting increased. It is not capturing logs. There is a different service which captures user logs, user activity, and all of that. Okay. It is just using those logs and filtering out and understanding, okay, is this a suspicious or non-suspicious activity? Are we clear? Guys, is everyone clear what your AWS guard duty is? Can I have quick confirmation from all of you? So remember this count 62 and 10, and here it says 9 hours ago. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly use this root account to quickly create a bucket. Please understand. So I'm going to create an S3 bucket using my root account so that it will find it to be suspicious. I'm just using some random name and I say create bucket. Okay. So now after some time when we see these logs of guard duty, it will tell us a finding. Okay. It will tell us the finding. And it will also tell me what kind of risk it is, whether it is critical, low, high. So you notice these three different colors. So this is basically your low severity. If you notice this is about your medium severity. And if you notice red, it's about high severity. So it will give all of that. So we'll come to that. Now someone was asking how it is getting those logs. So if you notice what three logs are needed for it to work, right? These are three logs. AWS CloudTrail, your VPC logs, and your DNS query logs. It requires only these three logs: CloudTrail, VPC log, and DNS logs. Now, what is your CloudTrail? I was about to talk about it. So CloudTrail is a service from AWS. Okay. It's a service from AWS which keeps track of users' activity. It will keep track of user activity. Now, for example, I've been doing a lot of activity in my Mumbai region. So I'll show you how exactly your CloudTrail will keep track of it. So I click on event users, right? If you notice, it says S3 bucket was created with the name 170621. This is yesterday, right? June 17. Someone logged into the console using root account. So all the user activity Yesterday we were working with user one account, right? So some user one logged into the console. So any activity as a user is done, right? It is getting tracked down here. All those details are noted down here. So AWS Guard Duty uses these details to tell us whether it is suspicious or non-suspicious. Are we clear, everyone? What will be in the finding? Why count is changing? I'll show you what will be there in the finding, and why count is changing. I'll show you that also. Okay. Let's hold for some time. What about other two logs? So those are your VPC logs. So right now, even if I show you, you'll not understand that, because when we discuss VPC, you'll have more clarity. But in very layman term, it is nothing but your network logs. Your VPC logs are nothing but your network logs. So it will talk about what kind of traffic is going out and what kind of traffic is coming into your network. Okay. So when we come to our VPC module, I thought to discuss that, because right now you don't know what your VPC is. So if I talk about VPC log, it will just bounce above your head. So your DNS logs also is all about what kind of DNS requests going in and out of your network is what your DNS logs is all about. So understand, your guard duty requires logs from your CloudTrail, logs from your VPC, and logs from your DNS. Without these logs, your CloudTrail, your guard duty cannot give any kind of findings. For it to give you findings, for it to help you understand something about suspicious, non-suspicious, or unsuspicious activity in your infrastructure, these logs are must. Are we clear? Now findings sometimes can be false positive or false negative. Okay, findings sometimes can be false positive as well, right? I might be a user, my business requirement is that I should use some dark website. Let's say my business needs me to check, okay, is there any rumors being spread about my organization in dark web? So for that I need to log in into dark web and I need to check. So that can be my genuine business ask, right? So if that is your genuine business ask, then under the list here you can add a trusted IP address, so that you don't get those kind of findings, or those kind of findings can be ignored. Are we clear? Sweta, I think that was your question. Is that answering your question? Guard duty is enabled on region wise? Absolutely yes. Guard duty is region specific. Difference between your CloudWatch and CloudTrail. CloudTrail is to keep the track of user activity. CloudWatch is to monitor your resources. Monitor your server utilization, monitor your database utilization, monitor your latency related problems, all of that. You can monitor that using your CloudWatch. CloudTrail to track your user activity. Now is CloudTrail coming with free, additional cost? Absolutely yes. It will come with additional cost. It is chargeable. Are we all clear, guys? Can I move forward? Everyone, may I request everyone to be quick enough to respond? Are we clear? We are spending a lot of time here on this just to ensure that you guys are clear. Thank you. Thank you for the confirmation. Right. So now moving a bit forward, talking about the next part of discussion. We have enabled guard duty. We'll see the outcome in some time. Okay. Okay. Since guard duty is in region, if the bucket and object is given access to other region with write access, then if any changes to the object will reflect to the trial, absolutely yes, it will. It will reflect as an event in the user activity logs. So we'll see back this guard duty part. Now coming back to your WAF, the next layer, protecting your infrastructure using WAF and Shield. Now when I talk about WAF and when I talk about Shield, before we discuss that, I would like to understand from you guys, how many of you understand what is firewall? Yes or no? How many of you are aware about what is firewall? Okay. And what is your web application firewall? Because I see so many people, giving different answers. What is your web application firewall then? See, you all gave me so many different answers for the firewall. So I would also like to understand the difference between firewall and web application firewall. Are they same or different? So let me tell you the difference between your WAF and difference between your web application, I mean normal firewall and your WAF. Okay, they are not same. They are not same. Your WAF is different, your firewall is different. Though in terms of functionality, they sound pretty similar. Okay, in terms of functionality, they sound pretty similar, but they are slightly different from each other. Let's assume this is your web server. Okay, and let's assume this is your firewall. I'm not telling your web application firewall, this is your firewall. Normally, let's assume this is your perimeter firewall. So in your infrastructure, there is a user. Okay, so user comes via internet, tries to log in that application. Okay, so when user is trying to log in the application, obviously the traffic should reach the server. So user says www.xyz.com. Now, obviously, on a firewall, there will be a rule telling that if someone is trying to log into xyz.com or someone is trying to access www.xyz.com, right? Someone is trying to access this application, right, on this particular port or protocol, let's say HTTP or HTTPS, right? Then allow the traffic to reach this server. Allow the traffic to reach this server. Now, this user has easily bypassed firewall. Do you all agree? Because on the firewall, there was a rule. On the firewall, there was a rule telling that if someone is trying to access application XYZ hosted on so-and-so server, and if the traffic type is HTTP or HTTPS, allow the traffic. So the first layer of security is easily bypassed. As a firewall, it should allow. It is its job to allow. Now, when I talk about your WAF, web application firewall, what your web application firewall will do is, understand very clearly, your web application firewall, before even the traffic, if the WAF is enabled, before traffic can reach that server, it will do entire packet inspection. When I say packet inspection, sorry, not infection, inspection, I'm sorry. Okay, when it does packet inspection, what it will look is, it will completely check the entire packet and ensure that there is no malicious code getting injected. A lot of time what happens is, if hackers know that, okay, this is a web application, so obviously this application is listening on port 80 and 443. So in HTTP or in HTTPS packet, they enclose a malicious code with your HTTP and HTTPS packets, and they inject it on the server, which might go undetected with this first layer of firewall. But this WAF, web application firewall, will ensure that any kind of web exploits, if they are trying to exploit and enter my web server, they are blocked. Are we clear what your WAF is, everyone? So it will look for the common web exploits. It will have its own database of the suspicious signatures. It will have its database of suspicious IP address, right? So it will look into that database. If you have enabled, if you have configured it, it will look into those database. And if it finds anything suspicious, it will block those kind of IP addresses or those kind of traffics. That is your WAF. Are we all clear? Everyone, am I making sense? And not only this, it has a lot of other abilities. When I talk about WAF, it can allow traffic only on the basis of country, geographic location. You can allow or block traffic on the basis of that. Or you can configure it to strictly check for the header detail. You can configure to strictly look for certain string patterns in your traffic. Only if those pattern matches, you can decide whether you want to allow or not. There are three possible actions to the traffic. You can allow traffic, you can block traffic, or you can count traffic. So let me show you how to configure your WAF. Okay. So again, your cloud WAF is completely managed service from AWS. You're not going to manage underlying infrastructure. Okay. You're directly going to create your ACL. ACLs are nothing but your access control list. ACLs are nothing but your access control list kind of rules. So say create web ACL, create web ACL. It will ask a name, say demo. And again, this is chargeable. Guys, if you're practicing WAF, my humble request to all of you, it is chargeable. If you configure a WAF rule and leave it undeleted even for 1 day, it is going to generate some $2-3 for you. Okay, it is not part of your free tier account. Please be very sure when you are working with your WAF, you be very sure that you don't leave it unattended. Delete it, or you be sure that if you want it, be willing to pay for it. Right? So here, first give your name, define your region, right? And which traffic do you want to protect? The traffic coming from your load balancer, your API gateway, AppSync, you want to protect that traffic? Say yes and say next. Then here you can add your rules. Add your rules. There are two types of rules. Add your managed rules or create your own rules. So what do I mean when I say managed rules? So I was telling you, right, it has its own database. This is your database of AWS. So in managed rules, if you notice, it has a lot of predefined, pre-configured rule depending on the type of attack. For example, bot control rule. Now what this bot control rule will do, it offers you protection against automated bots that can consume excess resource, skew your business metrics, cause downtime, or perform malicious activity. So it will, if this rule is enabled, it will look into the pattern of the traffic, and it will understand, okay, this is a known pattern, it is some bot related pattern, and it will immediately block that kind of traffic. Admin protection contain rules that allows you to block external access to exposed admin pages. This may be useful if you're running third-party software or would like to reduce risk of malicious actor gaining administrator access to your application. Right? Amazon IP reputation list. The group contains rules that are based on Amazon threat intelligence. This is useful if you would like to block sources associated with bots or other threats. So it will have a list of IP address which are suspicious. Anonymous IP address list, right? This group contains rules that allow you to block requests from service that allow obfuscation of viewer identity, basically hiding their identity. This can include requests originating from VPN proxies, Tor nodes. Tor node is nothing but when you download a Tor browser in your machine, and using that browser, if you're trying to access certain application, then your machine will be referred as Tor node. Hosting providers. This is useful if you want to filter out viewers that may be trying to hide their identity from your application. So it has some predefined, signature patterns, predefined database. So whenever there is a traffic coming in, if you enable these rules, it will match against these rules and it will block those traffic. This is when you go with your predefined rules or managed rules. Now you're like, no, I want to create my own rule. AWS allows you to do that. AWS allows you to create your own rule, where when you create your own rule, you can define a lot of details. Like if traffic is originating from India, okay, I want to allow traffic only if it is coming from India, okay, and if the traffic has certain header pattern or certain string, or if the body contains this message, I can define what your body message should match with, right? If the HTTP body or HTTP GET request, I have lots of choices. If the header includes this content, right? If header has this header field name, and if string matches to this, right? Only then allow the traffic. If I want, I can just say like this. So basically you can do your packet level inspection, and depending on your business requirement, you can decide whether you want to allow, block or count. Allow will allow the traffic, block will block the traffic. Count basically will keep a track of how many such requests are being coming in. Are we clear what your WAF is all about and how it will protect your infrastructure? Can I have quick confirmation? Any questions from anyone? WAF rule is only for your web application servers? Absolutely yes. WAF is absolutely for your web applications, web servers. Okay. For your infrastructure, you need to configure firewalls. For all your AWS resources, if you want to protect, right, you need to configure something called as firewall. WAF is very much specific to your web servers and your web application. Now let's say you want to protect your databases, you want to protect your unauthorized access to your storage, your network and other your resources of your organization, right? For that purpose, you need to configure something called as firewall. Clear, Vivek? Does that answer your question? So WAF is basically to protect your web infrastructure from any kind of web exploits or common web exploits by configuring rules. Okay. And remember one thing about these rules. Remember one thing about these rules. The order of processing of this rule is top to bottom. The order of processing is top to bottom. So let's say you have rule number 1, rule number 2, rule number 3. Okay. Now, what do I mean when I say order of processing is top to bottom is, let's say rule number 1 is saying if the traffic is coming from IP address 1.1.1.1, allow that traffic. If the traffic is, rule number 2 says if the traffic is coming from IP address 1.1.1, deny that traffic. And rule number 3 says, if the traffic is coming from India, okay, then allow that traffic. Now my business requirement was to deny traffic coming from 1.1.1. So help me understand, in this 3 rule, now let's assume there is a traffic coming from 1.1.1. What will happen to that traffic? Guys, understood the requirement? There is a traffic coming from 1.1.1.1. Rule number 1 says allow, rule number 2 says deny, rule number 3 says allow traffic from India. Now there is a traffic generated from 1.1.1. So will that traffic be allowed, denied, or it will hit rule number 3? What do you think? Will this traffic be allowed or denied? Rule number 1 says allow traffic from 1.1.1. Rule number 2 says deny traffic. And rule number 3 says, if it is from India, then allow. So will the traffic be allowed or denied? So let me tell you, your traffic would be allowed. Your traffic will be allowed and it will use rule number 1 to allow that traffic. Now remember what I told you, the order of processing your rule. The order of processing your rule is top to bottom. So when I say top to bottom order of processing, what it means is the moment it finds the best match, rule number 1 says if the traffic is from 1.1.1 allow, then it is not going to process any further rules. Are we clear? It is not going to check what is defined in rule number 2 or what is defined in rule number 3, because the first rule itself is matching. Guys, those who said deny, are we clear why it will not be denied and why it will get allowed? If I want to deny, then on rule number 1, I should say deny. So always remember this. This is very important to remember. The rule are evaluated. The rule are evaluated from top to bottom. And the moment it finds the best match, it will stop further processing. The moment it finds the best match, it will stop further processing. If rule number 1 matches, it is not going to process rule number 2 and 3. If rule number 2 matches, it is not going to check rule number 3. It is in sequence. Always remember, it is going to check from top to bottom, so it is obviously in sequence. This is important for you to remember. Please ensure you do not forget that WAF rule evaluation is from top to bottom. And the moment it finds the best match, it will not process any further, or it will not evaluate other rules. Are we all clear with this? Then if we need to allow traffic from India, then that needs to be first rule. Absolutely, yes. You need to configure it accordingly. The logic is that simple. If the business requirement was that I should be denying traffic coming from 1.1.1, right? Then I should have kept that on rule number 1. Rule number 2, I could have defined something else. Rule number 3, as an exception, I wanted to allow traffic from India. So it will first check, is the traffic coming from 1.1.1? If yes, hit the rule number 1. Okay. No, the traffic is coming from 2.2.2. Okay. So rule number 1 is not matching. Let me check rule number 2. Even rule number 2 is not matching. Let me check rule number 3. Okay. In rule number 3, what they have said is, if the traffic is coming from India, then allow. So is this IP address 2.2.2 belonging to India region? If yes, then it will allow. If not, it will further check for the next rules. Are we clear how it works? So you need to be very clear when you're configuring your rules, whether what kind of actions you want to allow, and put that rule in appropriate position. Then what is this? The capacity for each rule means how many conditions I can add in one rule. Okay. So when you're configuring your own rules, pay attention. I'm coming to it. I'm coming to it. When you're configuring your own rules, right? You have a choice here. Match statement. It can be and statement or not statement, right? If I say and statement, right? Number of and statement you can add. Again, numbers I'm not good at remembering. So I'll forward you to this WAF limitations, right? So number of rules, number of statements you can add. I think you're asking about the statement, right? So maximum number of IP set you can define. So all those numbers are available here. Okay. All those numbers are available here. You can check this out. So maximum number of calls, maximum number of individual get list. So all those you can define on this basis, whatever is the statement you have. Maximum number of characters in a string. So all those details are available here with respect to numbers. I would request you to please check this. Okay. So is that answering your question? Whose question was that? Is that answering your question? Cool. So now there is a question, what is the default option we will have on WAF? So in case if your traffic does not matches any of your predefined rules, okay? In case your traffic does not matches any of your predefined rule, then you have something called as default rule. There is something called as default rule, and that would be default deny. Let's say you have rule number 1, rule number 2, rule number 3. It does not match any of this rule. Then comes your default policy, and that is by default deny. Are we clear, Bhargavi? And that is referred to as your implicit deny. Okay. So that's about your WAF. That's about your WAF. I hope everyone is pretty clear about it. So now moving on to the next part of discussion, which is your AWS Shield. AWS Shield is a service from AWS, okay, to protect your infrastructure from DDoS kind of attack. Okay, before that, there was one question: when we have AWS guard duty, why do we require AWS WAF? Right? Will it not beat my purpose? So understand both of this have its own purpose. Your guard duty is from your infrastructure. If you're doing anything suspicious, it can be tracked down. It can be, easily identified using your guard duty. Let's say your WAF is not going to tell you that someone downloaded Tor browser on your web server and tried accessing something illegal. Your WAF cannot do that. Your WAF can only protect from your web exploits. If hacker is trying to access your application, okay, trying to bring your application down, your WAF can protect from that. Your WAF cannot tell you that, hey, someone in your organization had downloaded a Tor browser on the server and is trying to access some illegal website. That details cannot be given by your WAF. Am I making sense, Madesh? So your WAF and your guard duty are completely different. They are not same at all. They have their own functionalities. Okay. Now moving a bit forward, talking about your AWS Shield. AWS Shield is a service from AWS to protect your infrastructure from DDoS kind of attack. Yesterday we understood what your DDoS attack is, right? If you want to protect your infrastructure from DDoS kind of attack, then there is a service from AWS called as Shield, which works on detect and mitigation basis, right? There are two variants in AWS Shield. You have Shield Advanced and Shield Standard. Shield Advanced costs you $3,000 per month. Shield Standard is for free and it is enabled by default. You don't have to do anything. Okay, it is by default enabled. But if you want Shield Advanced, it will cost you around $3,000. Now with Shield Advanced, you can protect your application as well. The application which are hosted by you, even those can be protected. With Shield Advanced, Shield Standard, you can only protect your AWS infrastructure, not the application hosted within your infrastructure. Are we clear? So we talked about WAF. So this is what we are talking about right now. Your Shield Standard and Advanced. Shield Standards, it is at no additional cost. Shield Advanced, it comes with a cost. Okay. And it will allow you to protect your application as well. Again, it's a managed service, seamless integration. Okay. It will again look into your network logs and others to protect from your DDoS kind of attacks. Right? So Angry Birds, if you're aware, Rovio Entertainment Corporation, a very popular game of this company is your Angry Birds. They are using AWS Shield to protect their applications and services from DDoS kind of attacks. Standard Shield will not protect your application. It will only protect your network, your layer 4 OSI model. If you are aware of, it will only protect up to your layer 4, whereas your advanced version will protect up to your layer 7, that is your application layer. Next, talking about securing data using KMS and Cloud HSM. Securing data using KMS and Cloud HSM. Now, before I talk about KMS and Cloud HSM, I want to understand from you guys, how many of you are aware about BitLocker? How many of you guys are aware about something called as BitLocker? If you are not able to easily recall, let me tell you, in your office laptops, you must have seen there is something called as BitLocker. In your office laptops, you have something called as BitLocker. A majority of organizations these days are using BitLocker. In your starting screen, it will ask for a password kind of thing, right? You might think like, hey, I have seen somewhere, but I'm not able to recall. So that is in your office laptops, you must have seen it. Now, you all have that installed in your office laptops. I'm not sure if it is yes in everyone's case, but majority of offices these days uses BitLocker. Okay. Now, why this BitLocker is important? What is the purpose of BitLocker? Try to understand very clearly. How many of you know what is the purpose of this BitLocker? I understand that it will encrypt and protect your data, but how is the bigger question. In what scenario you need BitLocker kind of setup? Any clue? Any guesses? Protect your disk drive. Okay, let me tell you. Let me tell you. Your office laptops, forget everything else. In your office laptop, it is protected using username and password. Yes or no? Your office laptop is protected using username and password. So without giving username and password, no one can access any data and your account is safe. And your data stored in your laptop is safe. Agree? Now, you have to think a step ahead. You have to think a step ahead. The data is safe as long as laptop is with you. As long as laptop is within your foresight, within your visibility area, the data is safe. Okay. Now let's assume if I steal your laptop, I'm not gonna do that, but just telling you, let's assume if your laptop is stolen, you will be like, Prashant, no one will be able to still log into my laptop because they don't know my username and password. So my laptop is still safe. Your laptop is safe. Is your data also safe? The question is your data also safe? No, your data is not safe. Let me tell you, your data is not safe. If I don't want your laptop, I want your data, then can I remove hard disk from your laptop and insert this hard disk in any such relevant, similar laptop and read all your data? Yes or no? If I'm behind your data, I steal your laptop, I don't need your username and password after I steal your laptop. All I have to do is remove hard disk from your laptop and insert this hard disk in other compatible laptop. And once I insert that hard disk in other compatible laptop, can I say I can access all the data now? Agree with me? Yes or no? Agree? Then where is the safety to your data? Where is the security to your data? Because stealing laptop is not a big deal at all. So to protect from this kind of scenario, you have this BitLocker software. You have this BitLocker installed in your laptops. Now what this BitLocker does, it will encrypt your hard disk. So even if your laptop is stolen, someone removes that hard disk from your laptop, inserts that hard disk in other compatible laptop, still they'll not be able to read your data. Are we all clear now? What is the purpose of this BitLocker software or BitLocker application in your office laptops? Because I'm very sure in majority of your offices they use BitLocker, but 99% of employees don't know what is the purpose of BitLocker. Are we all clear? Why I was telling all this, though it has no relevance right now, okay? But the term which I wanted to bring your attention to is encryption. In our on-premises also, we have services to encrypt your data so that if anyone unauthorized is getting access to your resources, they should not be able to read your data. Had your laptop not been protected with BitLocker, had your hard disk not been encrypted, then the moment your laptop is stolen, anyone can read all your confidential information. Agree with me? So keeping your data encrypted, keeping your storage encrypted is of prime importance. Right? So in your cloud also, when you store your data, in cloud, would you not want to protect your data from this kind of, unforeseen situations? Now you might ask me, Prashant, so can someone steal my hard disk from the physical data center of AWS? No, 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 no. I'm not referring to that. I'm not referring to someone stealing your physical hard disk or something like that. Now let's assume that your infrastructure is compromised. Hacker has gained access to your infrastructure. Okay, by some or other means, hacker has gained access to your infrastructure. Okay, if your data is not encrypted, can I say hacker can read all your data? Agree with me? Yes. If your data is not encrypted, and if hacker gets an access of your infrastructure, let your data be stored in S3, let it be stored in other storages, right? Your data can easily be compromised. And as a business, you would never want that, because data is the lifeline of entire IT industry. I'm not sure if you have realized with your career in the IT industry or not. Data is the only thing which you're working for. Either you're a data generator, you're data protector, data consumer, or data analyzer. These are the only jobs in entire IT industry. You might be falling into either of this category. Because at the end of the day, entire IT industry revolves around only one element, that is your data. If there is no data, there is no IT industry. Using applications, you might be generating data. As a customer, you might be consuming that data. As an analyst, you might be analyzing that data. And as a security personnel, you might be securing that data. We all have different job titles, but this all sums to these 4 categories. Right? So it is important that your data is protected. So in on-premises, we have all this BitLocker kind of mechanism to encrypt your data, store your data and stuff. When we go to cloud, if we want to encrypt our data and if we want to secure our data, we have services from AWS. We have service called KMS, Key Management System, and Cloud HSM. These are 2 services from AWS which allows you to encrypt your data. Now, for the purpose of encryption, we require some prior understanding about cryptography. How many of you here have some good understanding about cryptography? Say yes if yes, no if no. But let's be quick. So, encrypting or generating your encryption keys or decryption keys require a lot of detailed understanding about cryptography. Cryptography talks about triad. I'm not sure, again, if you are aware, because in every organization there is some common training. We call it as ISMS training or something like that. CIA, where they talk about this. CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Confidentiality is nothing but right kind of users have access to the data. That is, confidential information should be shared only to those users who are authorized. Integrity, no one should be able to tamper your data. Whatever is original data, it should be protected as such. Availability, whenever this data is required, it should be available. This is called a CIA triad of your cryptography. Now, cryptography deals with a lot of algorithms. You must have heard of SHA-256, 512, MD5, Diffie-Hellman, all of this, right? In your college days, if not now in your working environment, you must have heard of all of this. Diffie-Hellman algorithms, MD5, SHA-256, SHA-512, so many AES, so many, algorithms, right? Now you might not be directly working on them, but I'm very sure in engineering, you must have heard of these terms, right? So those are your cryptography algorithms. Those are your complex algorithms which will be used to encrypt your data. Now, what is encryption? Encrypting is nothing but protecting your data in such a way that no one can read your data easily. To read that data, you require something called as decryption key. Now, when I talk about keys, right, there are 2 types of keys. Okay, there are 2 types of keys. Guys, if you go to your slides, you will not find all this information what I'm talking about. The slides are very basics. Okay, but I know you need to have this information, so I'm trying to go in detail about this subject. Please pay attention, please try to understand. Okay, you'll not find this detailed information in your slides, whatever I'm trying to say. Why I'm saying is because I know a lot of people are not coming from security background, so you might have very limited visibility to this subject, right? So I'm trying to share as much information so that you have some basic understanding about what your encryption is all about. Okay, so please pay attention. Humble request from my side. It's only for your benefit I'm talking about it. If you want me to stick to curriculum, I can very well move on, and by now I must have completed this KMS completely. Okay, but I understand as a solution architect, you should have more detailed visibility to the security part, right? And that is why I'm trying to spend some additional time discussing each of this security topic in detail. You must have noticed, every topic we are going very slow. I'm stressing so much on each and every topic of security because that is very important for you to know. And not not many people coming from a security background, it is important that you have some better visibility. Okay, you'll not find this kind of content anywhere in the internet also. Let me tell you very honestly, not to boast about myself, even in internet you'll not find this detailed explanations. So please pay attention, because I see a lot of people are not active, and that is not really good for me, or that is not something which I'm appreciating it. I request your support and cooperation. Please be a bit active. I know it's a very dry subject for the people who are not coming from a security background. It's kind of all German and French which I'm talking, but I would need your support. So talking about your keys, continuing here, right? Under your KMS service, okay, under your KMS service, which is key management service from AWS, the underlying infrastructure, the underlying algorithm handling, whether you want to use SHA-256, whether you want to use Diffie-Hellman, your AES, or you want to use MD5, all of that is taken care by AWS. You're not getting yourself involved in the cryptography life cycle. Okay, you're not getting yourself involved in deciding the cryptography life cycle. In KMS, you directly say create key, and you will have a choice whether you want symmetric key or you want asymmetric key. Now, what is symmetric key and what is asymmetric key? Symmetric key, try to understand very clearly, to encrypt as well as decrypt. When you use the same key to encrypt your data and to decrypt that data, if you're using the same key, that is your symmetric key. Asymmetric key is you use one key to encrypt your data and you use other key to decrypt your data. That is your asymmetric key. Okay, so symmetric key data retrieval is faster. Asymmetric key data retrieval is slightly slower. Why? Because to encrypt it is using one set of key pair, okay, and to decrypt it is using another set of key pair. So it has to do dual processing. While encrypting as well as for decrypting, it has to do separate kind of processing. But with symmetric key, it is the same processing which is being done. So always remember, your symmetric key is when you use the same key pair. Asymmetric key when you use a different key pair, right? So you can generate whether you want symmetric or you want asymmetric key. You need to give a name to your key. Let's call demo here. Okay, and you say next, right? So which user should be allowed to, so I say admin. I should have an IAM role basically created, right? So that that specific service is allowed to access these keys. Now in case if I want to encrypt data in S3, So I should have a IAM role for S3. So using S3, they can decrypt this data or something like that, right? I should have a relevant service role created, right? In case using a load balancer or for the backup or some other purposes, wherever I'm creating. So I should have relevant, relevant, role available here, right? Then I say next, define key usage, who all can use. Again, you can add a specific AWS account or you can assign a role. Only those roles can access it, right? So once if I say this and if I say finish, my key would get generated. Now pay attention, this is my symmetric key, okay? Key usage for encrypt and decrypt, and this is my key ID. This is my key ID. And if I want to review the cryptographic configuration of this key, click on this here, right? It's a symmetric. So it is taking care of underlying, cryptography algorithm and stuff. I don't have to worry about whether it should use SHA-256 or some other cryptography, algorithms. Okay. Now I can use this key. To encrypt my data which is stored somewhere, right? I have generated this key. Now let's say if I want to encrypt this data in S3, pay attention. This is a bucket. I am uploading an object here now. Let's say this file. And if I want to encrypt under the properties, I have one option called as encryption. Specify an encryption key, right? Use KMS key. Choose from your KMS key. You notice this key which we just generated with the name demo. If you pay attention here. So I have used that key and I am encrypting my data. Now when I try to access, I'll not be able to directly access. I should use some applications. Okay. I should use some applications to access this data. Okay. I did not enable this bucket to be public. So I'll show you when it is encrypted what it says. We don't have demo for KMS, but I wanted you to be aware of, and that is why I'm showing you a demonstration. Pay attention to this. Now, even if I make this public, it is completely public. Request specifying server-side encryption with AWS KMS managed key require AWS signature version. My browser is trying to, just like that, trying to access this data, but this data is completely encrypted. Am I making sense? You can check on your browsers also. You can check on your browsers also. It should say that your data is encrypted. Server-side encryption is done. Only if I provide the decryption key, it will be able to. And right now I cannot provide decryption key on my browser. So it needs to be accessed using some application. Onto that application, I need to provide this decryption key. Are we all clear? Able to see similar kind of error? Now if I deactivate this key, pay attention. On the same screen, I come back here on the KMS. Key action, I disable this. I am disabling this key. So I have disabled it. Now if I refresh, one second. Key is disabled. Even there I need to disable the encryption part. only if I disable this. Are we clear? Now you are able to access. You can refresh, right? I don't have an application right now created so that I can punch those decryption key and show you. So I just disabled it. Ideally, what we need to be doing is I should have some application. Right now on my browser, I cannot change the algorithms and stuff, right? If it is my signed certificates or something like that, then I'll specify this decryption key and I'll try to access. Okay. But right now, I'm not going for the purpose of demo. I'm not going to do that detail. So ideally, whenever you're accessing here, I need to specify in the certificate, right? In the certificate, I can configure it with my own decryption patterns, right? This is the thumbprint. If you notice, I'm not sure because the screen is kind of, you know, this is kind of thumbprint, and all of this I need to specify in my own application. I need to build my in-house application. Okay. I need to have my own in-house application. So if I have that in-house application, then I can specify those keys there and I can access my data. Are we clear? Everyone? And there are documents like, how to decrypt. So you can even try this out. So if I want to, do I need to specify AWS KMS when I download? You don't need to specify. Okay, sorry, not this document. I'm sorry. So you need to have your SDKs, right? Basically, in your application, you need to call this SDKs. In your SDK, you need to define your decryption keys. That is what I was telling. In your application, you need to define this. Okay. So you can try this out. You need to have your own application. In your application, you need to define these details. Are we all clear? You can refer to this document where you'll have more details about it. But I hope now all of you have a fair enough understanding on what is encryption, what is decryption, how to encrypt your data, and all of that. Yes? Manoj, is your question answered? Ashish, is your question answered? Right now, when you disable, it is equal to having no encryption at all. Ashish. When you disable, it is equal to having no encryption at all. Okay. An Edureka guest who asked how I'll be able to give my decryption key. I don't know which encryption method is used. Is there any way? So that is where when KMS you don't have to worry about. In KMS you don't have to worry about because it's completely managed. So you have that key available, directly specify your key. What cryptography algorithm is used, you don't have to worry about. You notice this? Here in your application, you need to specify this is the KMS key ID. So it will use that key and try to decrypt and give you a decrypted data. Are we all clear? Can I move forward? And if you're working with this, please ensure you delete your KMS keys. It will come with a cost. It is not for free, right? Please ensure if not, you'll be unnecessarily charged for it. I'll talk about what is your next customer managed keys. I'll talk about it. Let's hold for a moment. Is there any ways where we can define which encryption method to be used? So I'm coming to that point of discussion only right now. Okay. So now if you don't want to leverage this AWS managed service, you're like, no, I should have a detailed visibility of cryptography lifecycle. Right from the time the keys are generated, which algorithm to be used, how it should be generated, how it should be archived. You want complete control over that, right? Then you have a service from AWS that is called as Cloud HSM. You have another service from AWS that is referred to as Cloud HSM. Now, Cloud HSM deals with complete cryptography lifecycle. Now, the other side of Cloud HSM, which you need to understand is, it is completely not a managed service, but rather you will have to manage, completely managed by customer. You're going to create a cluster. Basically, you're going to have a virtual server. On that server, those relevant softwares would be installed, and you will have complete control over the cryptography lifecycle. When I say complete control over cryptography lifecycle, you can decide what cryptography algorithm to be used. Okay, how should the cryptography key be generated, how it should be used, where it should be stored, how it should be archived. All of that control you will have under your Cloud HSM. In KMS, since it's completely managed, you don't have to worry about all of this. AWS takes care of, generating keys to, archiving those keys, or, discarding those keys, completely managed by AWS. As a user, you just say whether you want symmetric or asymmetric, you create key. You're not defined whether it should use MD5, SHA, Diffie-Hellman, what kind of algorithm, AES, or what algorithm. You're not defined that in your KMS. All of that AWS takes care of. But with your Cloud HSM, there would be a server cluster, okay, that would be created, and you will have complete control over it. So right from your fundamentals, you can decide like, what cryptography algorithm, how the key should be provisioned, how it should be stored, how it should be archived. Now, along with that, Cloud HSM also allows you a lot of other options. Along with just encryption, it allows you to have your DRM, digital right management, PKI, your public key infrastructure management, your authentication and authorization, digital document signing, and transaction processing. So all those purpose also you can use your Cloud HSM for. Now, DRM is nothing but ensuring your application rights are managed by you. Copyrights, digital right management, right? No one is trying to use your organization logo or your organization symbols, your tagline, and all of that. That is your digital rights management, right? Talking about your PKI, for every certificate management, for every server, there would be certificates and other thing which will be installed. So managing those certificates, pushing those valid certificates, CA signed certificates, all of that can be done using your PKI infrastructure. Document signing, nowadays a lot of people use, digital signing of your document, which stands true in any court of law, right? Those kind of digital document signing is also possible with your Cloud HSM, right? And obviously your transaction processing, where you can define, okay, should I continue with these transactions or not? Now, this is somewhere you will have servers created, and you will have to manage and maintain those servers. And these are dedicated for you to use. You're not. Your KMS is a multi-tenant platform, right? So AWS have their own backend server. From those servers, they are generating keys and giving to us. Now, same servers can be used by multiple clients of AWS. AWS might be using same servers to generate keys for multiple customers of AWS. But here, this is a single tenant dedicated platform for your organization only. Are we all clear? Nimai, is that answering your question between AWS managed and customer managed keys? And someone was asking, like, is there a way where I can define encryption method, which algorithm and stuff? Is that question answered? Yes. In KMS, you cannot define your algorithms, but if you want to specifically define your algorithms, you want to define your own parameters, then you need to use your Cloud HSM. Cloud HSM, I repeat myself, is a service provided by AWS where it allows you to create your own clusters of server, where right from the fundamentals of creation of your keys till archiving those keys, you have complete control. You can decide what algorithms to be used. You can decide what methods to be used to generate those keys and how to use those keys. This is a single tenant platform. That means in this particular cluster, it has to be managed by you, and this cluster will be used to only provide keys to your organization. Obviously, it is costlier in comparison to your KMS. Are we all clear now? Everyone, may I request a quick check with all of you? Are we clear? With this, we basically complete security on AWS. So basically the control is with HSM and actual key creation happens on KMS. No, KMS is a managed service where AWS says you don't want to take overhead of deciding what cryptography algorithm, you don't want to take overhead of managing that server and stuff. You want to use my platform and directly get those keys, then that is your KMS. I will take care. AWS says I will take care of everything, right? But Cloud HSM is not that case. Cloud HSM is like AWS says, see, this is your environment now. Now you use, I'm giving you dedicated server, you use it the way you want. You'll have complete control over it. Does KMS and Cloud HSM store any logs about encryption? Yes, obviously. It does have logs. You have configuration for that also. You have provision for that also. So here you can define, okay, I did not define it, but you have a provision where you can define the logs also be generated. How the logs are used, all of that are also possible, and we can keep track of those logs also. There is a provision to that. So I think your purpose of asking logs is to understand who all tried to encrypt and when and what. Yes, that is the intent. Yes, it is possible. It is possible. Cool. So I hope now, after discussing security for a good amount of time, I hope now all of you have some confidence that data on your cloud is safe, secure. Security is no more a problem or a challenge when you migrate from your on-premise to the cloud. Because I remember a lot of you people, in our first two sessions, you had a lot of questions around the security. Is that answering all your questions or doubts around the security? Yes, no? So now, next is your trusted advisor. Okay. Next is your trusted advisor. Now understand what is this trusted advisor. Now, whom do you think is your advisor? What is your definition of advisor? Whom would you call as an advisor? Giving solutions on critical situation, someone who is expert, someone who is, in position to give you some suggestions and feedbacks. Agree? Yes or no? Like, though in this world everyone is good at giving advices, right? We all know, you talk to any person, everyone is willing to give some advices for free, right? But but those are not your trusted advisors. Trusted advisors are when you talk to experts and they give you some suggestions, right? So AWS has a service which you can rely upon to get some better advisors from your infrastructure perspective. From your infrastructure perspective. Now you might tell me, Prashant, why would I need suggestions from AWS? So AWS is not going to charge you for this. Okay. The basic trusted advisor service is for free. It gives you recommendations on 5 parameters, right? From fault tolerance to performance, cost optimization, right? There are 5 parameters on which this trusted advisor gives you recommendation, right? So what this does is, this is using some machine learning for all the services which you're hosting on your AWS. Using that machine learning, it checks and tells you that are you following the best practices or not, or is there a scope of improvement in your infrastructure, like cost optimization, performance, security, fault tolerance, service limit. So these are 5 areas on which this trusted advisor will give you some recommendations. Okay, it will give you recommendations. Now if I talk about this, there are 3 different types of recommendations which it can give. Green, when everything is okay. Yellow or amber, right now I don't have anything of that sort, so it is not showing me anything in amber. Yellow or amber is somewhere it says investigation recommended. It is not a good practice, but I still recommend you to investigate this matter and check if it is as per your business requirement. Red, action recommended, something severe, please look into this on urgent basis, right? So this gives recommendations on this 5 parameters. You can download those recommendations right now like this. Okay, and in this recommendations it will also give you details about what the recommendation is all about, right? What the recommendation is all about. It will also give you detailed report. You can download that, and if there is any problem observed, it will tell you how to fix that problem. It will tell you how to fix that problem, some suggestions, right? MFA on root account. So right now, check the root account and once if multi-factor authentication is not enabled. For increased security, we recommend that you protect your account using MFA. Then recommended action, log into your root account, activate an MFA. And it is giving you relevant documents. You can refer to them to enable MFA on your root account, right? So it is giving you how to check this status. It is giving you all of that so that you can be very clear of, and this can come as a finding for your account, right? So if I refresh this, so on my account MFA is not enabled. Earlier it was enabled, so it was saying. Now when I refreshed, you notice checks the root account on once if the multi-factor authentication is not enabled. So here you notice right now it has shown red. So MFA is not enabled on root account. It has identified that, and this is the recommendation. Are we clear? This trusted advisor by default is for free. Now you want more detailed recommendations based on your infrastructure, your architecture, your applications and all of that, then you'll have to upgrade this plan, and that upgrade will come with a cost. Once you upgrade, you will have a dedicated support engineer whom you can talk to over phone and get recommendations for your infrastructure. All right. So basic trusted advisor is for free, and you can review all of that, whether it is good, bad. By refreshing, it will tell you. What is green and what is read in your AWS account. It will do that and it will tell you. So with this, we complete our module 2. With this, we complete our module 2. Now, I would like to bring your attention back to AWS Guard Duty for a moment. Okay, before we call it a day. We had count as 62 and 10. Now you notice bucket block public access disabled. One count. Now, if you talk about this, Amazon S3 bucket block public access was disabled. Remember, earlier my bucket was blocked, public access was enabled, right? Okay. And now you notice we disabled it when we added that object, if you recall. So Amazon S3 block public access was disabled for S3 bucket demo 08, whatever we created by root, calling it put bucket public access block. If this behavior is not expected, it may indicate a configuration mistake or that your credentials are compromised. So that's an anomaly which is identified. And on which bucket? On this particular bucket. Effective permission, it is no more public, not public anyway. It was supposed to be not public, but now it is public, right? And how did we do? It was enabled and it was made public. From where did it happen? From this IP address. This IP address is what? It is my machine's IP address. So I'll show you that also so that all of you understand that it is giving what is my public IP. 122.174.182.159. 122.174.182.159. Guys, are we all clear how it works? AWS Guard Duty. Then here it has increased from 62 to around 121. So it will tell you details of what has happened, right? API get resources was invoked using root credential. Get resource is nothing but we did a lot of configuration, right? Using our root account. So it is telling that. Are we all clear? And once you're done with your guard duty, come back on, click on the settings, right? Say suspend guard duty. To avoid unnecessary charges, please ensure you suspend your guard duty. I hope you all enjoyed the session. With this, we complete our first week of this training. Week 1 is done. So I hope by now, from day 1 to till date today, you had, you had a lot of better visibility to what cloud computing is, what AWS is, how things work on AWS. So we have 2 more weeks to go. And I hope this first week was fruitful. You enjoyed whatever I had put across. And I hope your expectations are met so far. Yes? Cool. I'm glad you enjoyed. Thank you so much. So that is what I am working towards, so that you should enjoy and you should get to, meet your expectation as part of this training. So I'm glad that I was able to fulfill that. So now we are done with our week 1. So next week when we come back, we will start with our module 4. Okay. So just setting up the agenda quickly. If I just, ask you to wait for 1 more minute. Okay. So week 2, we'll be talking about your module 4, module 5 and module 6. These are 3 modules which we are planning to discuss in our week 2. So which is about your EC2 service, your load balancing service, auto scaling service, Route 53 service, and databases service. So I would request all of you guys, whatever we discussed in our week 1, please go back, practice, look into class recording so that you have a better understanding about this subject, right? And in your week 3, when we come to our last week, in the last session, I'm going to give you a detailed input on how to go about preparing for your examination. So just to, give you that confidence, okay, let me tell you, I have a detailed documents. Like I have close to 30 line items that I'll be sharing with all of you. It has books, it has a lot of supported materials. I'll share all of this with you guys, okay, but I don't want to do that right now, because that will only keep your focus in one direction, that is only exam point of view. Okay, this topic is not important from exam, so let's not focus. I don't want to bring that focus in your mind, okay. So I have a detailed write-up available. I update this document every now and then, okay. So I'll share this document. In this document, I've given you in detail how to go about preparing for your examination. So just trust me, stay along with me, and I'm very sure you'll be able to clear your examination without any challenges, okay. For every module, what needs to be paid attention, how much you need to work upon, how much of focus you need to put, all of that is available in this document. Which all topic you need to spend more time, everything I've written. Right from your practice test also, I've given you details about it. So I'll explain all of this in our last module last week, okay, that is in week 3, when we discuss about module 7, 8, 9 and 10, right? In that week we will talk about this also. So right now, humble request to all of you, don't think of examination, don't think of your interviews, okay. Right now, just focus on gaining knowledge. I'll share all this material with you guys in the last session. Just till then, I request all of you to park your trust onto me, that okay, Prashant, we trust you, okay, and we are very sure that by the end of this course we'll have all the information. Just that trust, if you put on me, I'm very sure you'll be able to clear your examination without any challenges. And trust me, exam is not difficult, okay. Just focus on what we have discussed and we are good to go. I'll give you all the relevant details needed to go about your projects, relevant details needed to go about your exam, go about your interview. I'll guide you on all of that, right? So with this, I would like to rest my words. Now, if anyone has any questions, I'm available to answer your questions. If not, yes, we are done with our today's session. Thank you so much for all your time and patience. I really appreciate. Wish you all a great weekend ahead, and we'll see you all in the next session. Till then, bye bye, take care, and please do not forget to mark your feedbacks, right? I look forward to your feedbacks. Right? So please do mark your feedbacks without fail. I need your feedbacks so that I know that yes, I'm doing job correctly. Okay, that is the way I gauge myself, or I continuously test myself. If there is something for me to improve, definitely I will check on that, right? Or if there is something which I should continue doing, even that will help me, right? Okay. So now a couple of people have couple of queries. So let me address them one by one. Those who don't have any questions, and if you have some commitment you want to carry on, please feel free to. If you have questions, you can stay back. If you don't have question, but still you want to listen to the questions of others, please feel free to stay back, right? But if you have commitment, I don't want to hold you back. So yes, taking questions one by one. So, okay. Firstly, answering question from our today's session, KMS and Cloud HSM difference. Vijay Lakshmi answering your question. KMS is nothing but AWS says that we will manage the underlying infrastructure. You don't have to worry about server management.
You don't have to worry about, cryptography, lifecycle management. You just tell us whenever you require key, you place your order and you get your encryption key. Use those keys to encrypt your data. That is your KMS. Cloud HSM is like AWS says, we are not going to take ownership of anything. You require a server cluster, we'll give you that server cluster. Now, how to use that server cluster? What kind of cryptography algorithm you want to use? How to, provision your keys? How to archive those keys? How to dispose those keys? Everything would be your responsibility in your HSM. Are we clear, Vijay Lakshmi? Cool. So that is answered. Okay. Second question. In an organization, we have thousands of files. We cannot define manually each of the file for the required storage class from AWS. What is the best automated way to achieve this? See, ideally, when you say you cannot define on each object level, right? Then let all your file by default jump into your standard storage class. Have a rule configured under the application lifecycle management, right? On your S3, have a rule configured telling that after 2 days move it, or after day 1, move this object to different storage class of your choice. Because by default, this has to be defined on every object level. Now you say, Prashant, I cannot do it on every object level because I have thousands of objects. Then you need to define transitions, right? You need to define transitions immediately. But ideal approach is you should define it on every object level. There is no, other shortcut to this, because every object will have different life cycle. An object A might be, very frequently accessed throughout the lifetime. Then there is an object B, which may not be that frequently accessed. So you cannot, make it as a general, or you cannot make it as a common thing that, okay, object stored in this bucket should be standard, object stored in this bucket should be, Glacier. That is not possible. Making sense, Prasanna? So this storage class has to be defined on every object level. There is no other way around to this. There is no way that you can automate telling that, okay, store it into this storage class or that storage class by default. Because the life cycle of every object is independent. You cannot generalize this. Okay. How can I? Okay, there is one more question on CLI, Jyoteshwar. Okay, Jyoteshwar, just allow me 1 minute. I'll answer your CLI also. CLI question. Just one theoretical question and then I'll answer. How I can create a directory tree structure in S3 bucket from S3 console. Then we'll place file under specific directory. How can? Okay. So nothing but you're requesting for creation of a folder. So instead of directly adding a file, right? You need to create a folder. Let's say demo. Okay, so I'm creating a folder. Now within this folder also, let's say I want to create one more folder, test, right? And in this folder I can add my object. So now if you look into this object, you notice it has directory kind of approach, bucket name, demo, test, PK. Are we clear? Cool. Okay, now Jyoteshwar, answer. Can you shoot your question? I have query on configuration of AWS CLI. Please shoot your question. You want me to unmute or you want to present something? Jyoteshwar K, you there? Okay, I have unmuted you from my side in case, if you want to talk and explain your query. You're self-muted. And meanwhile, if others have any question, please shoot your question in the question window so that I can address. Jyoteshwar, you're self-muted.
Hello, Prashant.
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
You're audible. You're audible. Please
Yeah.
go ahead.
Thing is, like, I have installed MSFL. Okay.
Okay.
The
Mhm.
and while like from the command prompt also I can see the version, but while configuring I have given the keys as well.
Okay. Access keys. Okay.
Okay. Access keys.
Mhm.
And like the third parameter, we need to provide region name, right? Default
Correct.
region name. So this
Correct.
region name, is there anywhere that we need to provide? Because in the document I can see
Here it
in
is.
File Explorer
Click
we
on
are
your
providing.
console. You,
Yeah.
you click on your console. Whatever is your
Yes.
region code, like let's say AP South 1 is a code for Mumbai, you need to provide this. In case if you want to use North Virginia region, you say US East 1 in the same format. US minus East minus 1.
Okay. In case if we already provided some other region by mistake,
And now
so
you
we
want
can
to
correct
change.
it with the right region, right?
Yeah.
We can see.
Just say AWS configure. It will ask for access key, hit enter. It will ask for secret access key, hit enter. Then it will ask for region name. There you can provide this region name.
The correct region name.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that the question?
That's it. And one more thing, Prashant, like personally, if you want to discuss for 2 minutes with you, means like after the session, is it possible to?
Unfortunately, no, because Edureka have this, agreement that I've signed
Mhm.
telling that, I cannot get in touch with participants. I cannot share
Okay.
my personals with any participants.
Yeah,
And that is the
because I
agreement
just need. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
I'm
Sorry for
supposed
that.
to honor.
Yeah. Actually, I just need the guidance, so that's why.
No, I absolutely understand, but there is an agreement which I've signed with Edureka and I'm supposed to honor by that agreement.
Okay. Then. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really sorry about it.
Yeah.
But you have
It's
Edureka
okay.
support team available. So I hope you understand my challenges here. Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Then.
Any other
That's it.
question from anyone? Great. Thank you so much, Jyotishwar. Any other question, guys? Is everyone's question answered? Is there someone's question whose I might have missed it? If there is some question which I missed it, please shoot it again. I'll be happy to answer. But to best of my knowledge, I've tried to answer everyone's question. All right. If no further question, then yes, thank you so much for all your time and patience. Can I delete bucket? All will be deleted. Yes, when you delete your bucket, all your data in that bucket would be deleted. Pawan, I think your question is, if I delete my bucket, will all my data be deleted? So before deleting bucket, you need to empty your bucket. You need to click on empty bucket. So that is where all your data would be permanently deleted. Pawan, is that answering your question? Yes. If you empty your bucket, all your data would be permanently deleted and you'll not be able to access that data. It will be lost. Everything would be deleted in that particular bucket. If you empty your bucket, everything would be deleted. Is that answering your question? There will be similar scenarios like this in our work. Okay, Pawan, unmuting you. Sure. Yeah, unmuted you from my side. You're self-muted, Pawan Kumar.
Hi Premji, thanks for support. Actually, my question is if I can delete the bucket, if the keys and security that everything will make make as a default or something it will activate.
Sorry, your voice is breaking. I'm sorry, Pawan, but I was not able to understand completely. Would you repeat?
Actually, we are configure some. Actually, we are configure some additional means keys and securities and if paid services we are enabling. For
Okay.
suppose if any chance is there to make it as default, everyone with a single shot.
No,
Like for suppose I can delete the bucket once all things are deleted. That
no,
permissions make it as default.
no. So you want to make this as a default behavior, right? That is what your requirement is. Let's say if I want to
Yeah, right.
enable certain standard
Yeah,
practices, that, on all my buckets, object should be encrypted. That is a default requirement which I should set up, correct?
yeah, right.
Is that the requirement? No, we don't have that option.
Yeah, yeah, you are right.
Okay. If we don't have that option, you will have to do on per bucket basis,
Okay, fine.
right?
Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay, fine. Actually, that is the reason. Any
Yeah,
alternative
yeah.
is there for that? Or suppose
I
something
mean,
else we are.
you can have your own organization standards by defining some bucket policy and all of that, not allowing user to upload data, upload object in case if they are not enabled encryption. So those kind of configuration you can do on your S3 bucket policy, IAM user policy and all of that. But by default, there is no way you can do this, push this as an automation.
Okay, fine. And
Okay.
thanks for
It has to be some kind of,
information.
enforced configuration, nothing else. Cool.
Okay, fine.
Great.
Actually, we are going to practice. That is, if for something else we are
Yeah,
missing
I
to
understand.
deactivate. If we
Yes,
that
I
is the reason I
understood
am.
that. Yeah. So, I mean, that is not the default behavior. Cool. Great. So moving on to the next question, Dhanlakshmi, there will be similar scenarios like this in a work environment under AWS. Absolutely, yes. You will run into this kind of setups in your work environment also. In Bucket, we have server-side encryption, which is disabled, right? Is there any difference between whatever encryption today and server-side encryption? So whatever encryption which we talked about today is your customer invoked encryption. Server-side encryption is nothing but AWS by default to meet their compliances. They have some encryptions enabled, okay? But however, that is not stopping us from accessing that data, okay? That is for the physical security. In case if someone steals the physical hard disk, which I was talking about from AWS infrastructure, then how to protect it? So that server side encryption will help. Clear? But today what we discussed is our own customer based, encryptions. So for our data, we are encrypting it specifically. All right, then I think I have answered everyone's questions. So with this, we complete our week 1. Thank you so much. I'll see you all in the next session. Till then, bye-bye. Take care. Wish you all a great weekend ahead. Please do not forget to mark your feedbacks. If you enjoyed my session, feel free to mark it as an excellent, because excellent is the only positive feedback. Anything apart from excellent would be considered as a negative feedback, right? So with that note, I would like to call it a day. Thank you so much once again. Signing off for the day, guys.